Good afternoon, everyone out there in viewer land or listener land. I guess if you trying to keep your eyes on the road while you're listening to us on your audio devices. I am Mike Piwowarski. This is the rundown, our daily program of 2A views and conservative news. I do not do this show by myself, though.
No, you do not. I am Craig DeLuz coming at you from the left coast. Once again, talking about 2A News with conservative views, bringing it to you live every afternoon during the weekday.
It's a great place. It's a great place to be. It's a great show. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And Craig, I have a question before we get down into things, though.
Yes, sir.
What happened to your flag, bro? Where's your flag?
Oh, dude, I haven't a hard time getting stuff sticking to this wall back here, so I'm redoing some stuff here behind me. So
Gotcha.
It'll look all pretty once I'm done.
Gotcha. Will it be full of bourbon when you're done?
No, bourbon is on that wall right there. I keep the bourbon in front of me so I can keep my eyes on the prize.
Well, I got mirrors, so it's now there's bourbon all the way around in here. So what started off as a couple of bottles behind me turned into, hey, I heard you collect bourbon. Oh, thanks. So, I've become the bourbon guy. So
I collect bourbon in my belly,
in my liver. Oh, good stuff. How was your day? Everything go all right out there in the communist state of California?
You know what? Actually, things have been going fantastic. When you live under an oppressive regime, you learn to get your digs in where you can. You learn to fight for freedom where you can and enjoy life one day at a time.
That's how you do it. One day at a time. Something just jumped off my desk. I wasn't even sure what it was. All right, so as long as it's not moving, it just fell.
As long as it's not moving up your leg.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, so we're good there. Look like some notes from yesterday's program. So all good here, all good. Craig, let's jump right into it today, if we shall. I saw some poll numbers that came out. This is listen. I think a little bit surprising in some cases, but for the most part, expected. Polls of Republicans voting for, likely voters for the next presidential election. So we're still talking over 3 years away before that happens. I guess just about 20 or 30 minutes before the cycle starts, though, because it seems like we're already running for 2024. Number one, Craig, please, folks, remember, this is only information, not a competition. Please, no wagering. Number one is former President Trump, with 56% of the total polled garnered in for him at 56%. Craig, not much of a surprise there. I think at number one. Anything there that surprises you?
Well, I think the 56%. I mean, for the most part, maybe not, because we know in general his support amongst all likely voters has consistently been right around 38%. Right. That's when you factor in independents, when you factor in Democrats and Republicans. The thing is that especially as the Biden administration has continued, we found that President Trump has been right over and over again. We know that he was right on the economy. Look exactly what Biden has done. People are wishing for the days of $3 or under $3 gasoline again. People are seeing the amount of inflation that is taking place. People in places like California are still lamenting in terms of our economy because, well, we shut down. And other places where President Trump was like, look, you don't have to shut down, just be smart. Anyway, but they're finding time and time again that the president was right. Whether it was the border, whether it was the Middle East, or the economy, or COVID. They're finding that he has been right, and they're finding out the consequences of what happens when you decide you don't want someone to be your leader simply because they send mean tweets.
Yeah, exactly right. And listen, every day that the current administration takes these extra steps, whether it be legally or procedurally, against members of the Trump administration or former Trump administration, they just strengthen this base even more. I mean, I don't think they realize the resistance they're creating right now, but by doing that.
Oh, clearly no. And you said before, Mike, we clearly wanted Hillary to be prosecuted for what she did in Benghazi. Quite frankly, I still think she should be.
Yep.
Having said all that, the Trump decided that, you know what, we need to heal, we need to move on, and so he opted not to go that route. Well, now Democrats are doing the exact opposite. They are seeking retribution, and they're utilizing the law enforcement in order to do it. And in the end, so far, I mean, what have we really seen? We saw Trump Corp CFO was brought up on tax charges because he didn't report as income a house or the house payments that they made for him. That doesn't sound like Russian collusion to me.
Well, exactly right, and then of course the search warrants served on Rudy Giuliani's home and office. Just harassment of key officials, key Trump officials. Things continuing along those lines. So, one Trump official that seems to have gotten a pass so far, Craig, is former Vice President Pence, and he's polled at 28%. 28%. I think that was kind of surprising. It was pretty clear towards the end of President Trump's term that how to handle the items with the election, the alleged allegations against the election, that those two were diametrically opposed and parted ways. It's surprising to see that 28% there. Although that could be we like Trump policies, we don't like the tweets people, voting for Pence.
And I think you just hit the nail. You hit the nail right on the head. I think while he was consistently with the president on just about every single policy, with the exception of how to handle the election results,
right.
He was right there with the president on just about everything. He was a lot more, how shall we say, diplomatic in his communications. Some would say to the point of being boring and putting people to sleep, but I think that's also one of the reasons why he was selected, because they didn't want someone who was going to be as bombastic as President Trump. They needed someone who, at least on the communications end, was going to be a lot more anchoring and stick to the talking points.
Yep, absolutely right. Excellent assessment. The next one is I think kind of expected. It's we talk about him here all the time as Captain Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis. So he has popped up there at number 3 position, points, half points, decimal points in front of Senator Ted Cruz in 4th place there, and then back at 15%. The only other double-digit candidate there, well, not candidate, prospect, is former Secretary Haley, Nikki Haley from UN. So, I mean, listen, a great crowd of people. I don't think any of these people would make a bad president for us.
Admittedly, I was surprised that Tim Scott didn't rank a little higher, that he was below Pompeo and Hawley. I was actually surprised because, when I think about, in particular, the major legislative successes that President Trump had, he was all over it. He was the leader in the legislature, in the Senate, that came up with some of these ideas and actually pushed some of these ideas through. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how things shape out. I think what we've learned from at least the last 2 presidential elections is that just because you're in the lead now doesn't mean that you will stay in the lead. You never know how things kind of shake out over time.
And that's very true. The only item I would point out after that is that it's almost a 30-point lead for President Trump.
Oh yeah, no. And I think that's one of the big differences between this and the last election. There was no real competition on the right. But having someone who is a clear front runner should they decide to run, I think does make a significant difference. And what you may be looking at is a list of candidates, potential candidates for vice president.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, listen, like you said, a lot of this comes down to, there's time, and we know that President Trump will listen to his advisors and will make his mind up and then may change his mind before we get to that point. Does he choose to be the king, or does he choose to be the kingmaker? That's the decision he's got to make.
Yeah. I think he would have more fun as the kingmaker as opposed to the king, but I also think he would love to rub the Democrats' nose in it and be president one more time. And I think
you're right.
I think there are a lot of people out there who want him to do that.
Right, and I think what you listen to the theory amongst everybody out there is that he does exactly that. He runs for office to win, to spite them, to show them that if you do it legally, you win elections, and then perhaps around the midterm, he turns it over to the vice president.
I will tell you, it's a little bit old of a book now, but a great book to read. It's called "If It's Not Close." If it's not close, they can't cheat by Hugh Hewitt.
Yes.
Interesting book considering the last election.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is recommended. Recommended. He was a good guy too. I had the opportunity to meet him once or twice. All right, let's move right along here, Craig. I'm going to hand this one off to you because this is a California state. I'll take the Florida man stories. You get to have the California stories.
Right. So folks, check it out. So we're having a recall election, looking to replace Gavin Mussolini, who is the governor of California, who basically is still trying to run California via an emergency order due to coronavirus, even though we don't necessarily have an epidemic or an emergency anymore. So he's being replaced. Or at the very least, we're going to have the opportunity to replace him. And there are a number of different candidates. Up to 41 different candidates have qualified for the ballot. One candidate who initially did not qualify for the ballot, according to the Secretary of State's office, was radio talk show host Larry Elder. Very conservative, libertarian-leaning. He's based in Southern California, has spent most of his career beating up on the left wing. Well, he had announced back on July 12th that he was going to be running for governor. Submitted all of his paperwork. And then Shirley Weber, who is the appointed Secretary of State, because our Secretary of State was actually, let's take a step back. When the vice president went from being the senator for California to being vice president, the governor had to replace the senator. Replaced him with our Secretary of State, Alex Padilla. So now our Secretary of State needed to be replaced, and he was replaced with Assemblywoman Shirley Weber. Well, Shirley Weber clearly felt like she had to stand up for her boss and find a way to keep the most popular candidate potential candidate in the recall election from being on the ballot. So back during the presidential election, governor signed into law and the legislature had passed a bill that required presidential candidates and statewide candidates to release 5 years of tax returns. Some additions redacted, some unredacted. Well, evidently they were saying that he didn't submit the appropriate tax returns, that they weren't properly redacted. Now, mind you, the law said nothing about this needing to be for a recall election. It was only for primary elections. And on top of it, they didn't really give specifics on what the redactions should look like. All that having been said, he was left off the ballot by Shirley Weber. Larry Elder took her to court. And, well, let's just say Larry Elder will be on the September 14th recall ballot running for governor in the state of California.
Which, unless there's some incredible revelation about Larry Elder, which means, listen, anything could happen, I guess, right? But at this point, because of his significant popularity and lead and name recognition, Larry Elder's got a great shot of being your governor there in California.
Oh no, he is 3 times ahead the next closest individual, whether it's Kevin Faulconer, whether it's John Cox, or Kevin Kiley, or Caitlyn Jenner. Now, I made it a point to say their names because you notice there's probably only one of those names that you even know or remember, and that's because they used to be Bruce Jenner.
There you go. Exactly right. Yep.
So anyway, it will be interesting. I can't wait to see the debates because I think he's going to mop up the floor with many of the other candidates. I to be honest with you, there's at least one other candidate that I like, Kevin Kiley. He's a local assemblyman here in Northern California. He's a younger guy who hasn't had any real issues taking on the establishment. I just think that his lack of name ID is going to be a challenge, and he is not the the most inspiring orator.
All right. I get it. All things that you need to have in order to be a public official or to garner attention when you want to become a public official. So it's going to be a tough hurdle. So Good on him. Good. Thanks
Yeah.
for stepping up. Make sure you give Larry your support.
Definitely make sure you guys give Larry your support.
Let's move right along here to one of our favorites, David the Waco Kid Chipman, the ATF nominee. Some more information has popped up about this guy. And Craig, we talked about it. They were delaying the vote, waiting for some sort of issue to occur around the country that involves a shooting so they can try and get that 51st vote that they need in order to make this guy the head of the ATF. And every day it seems that more negative information comes up. We saw from Dick Durbin yesterday, day before, that he started signaling perhaps to the White House that this wasn't the guy. And it's Democrat Dick Durbin, by the way. And now a little video comes out. I don't know, maybe old Dick saw this yesterday, but this is from when he was with the Giffords policy. That's a Waco Kid Chipman there, David Waco Kid Chipman, when he was with the Giffords policy organization. A video came out where he was comparing gun owners to the zombie apocalypse, mutants, fighters, and to the Tiger King. Remember the Tiger King guy? In fact, remember we had a spike in gun sales last year, just about this time, because of everything that was going on around the country with the Antifas, the BLMs, the rioting. So people were taking to the gun stores and doing the proper paperwork and purchasing firearms. And in response to that, this is what Mr. Chipman had to say. He said, well, you know what, Craig, I don't need to quote this. We've got some video, don't we?
And so in their mind, they might be confident. They might think that they're diehard, ready to go. But unfortunately, they're more like Tiger King. And they're putting themselves and their families in danger. And so what I would suggest is for those people who were first-time gun owners, if they did go out and buy a gun, I would secure that gun locked and unloaded and hide it behind the cans of tuna and beef jerky that you've stored in a cabinet. And, only bring that out if the zombies start to appear. And I don't think they are.
All right, so keep in mind now. So he's specifically talking about new gun owners. So if you're a new gun owner and you went out and bought it, I bought a gun. Yeah, you are. Basically, what he's saying is you're like the Tiger King. Is what he's saying.
You're overreacting.
Right.
You're flamboyant. You don't have the ability to be responsible. All things that refer to.
And you're going to try and kill Carol Baskin.
Right. Exactly. Right. Well, she's kind of crazy, but you don't kill crazy people. You just elect them. Let's see. So we've got. He says, remember again, might think that they're diehard, ready to go, but unfortunately they're more like the Tiger King, putting themselves and their family in danger. I love it. He says, take those guns, keep them unloaded, lock them up, put them in the cabinet behind your tuna fish and beef jerky and the rest of your supplies. He does not want you to have a firearm. He says, he's gone on to say, and he further said during this interview, was that nobody should have a firearm without the proper training. You know what that means? Let me tell you what that means. Only the government should have the guns.
That's what
that means, because only he and his people have the proper training. And Craig, you and I know it well. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It does not say shall not be infringed unless receiving an 8-hour course of instruction and paying $75 to the state to get a permit to own the firearm. It says shall not be infringed. Why does it say that? So ass clowns like this guy can't come and take the guns away from you.
Right. And by the way, that's not to say that we don't support training. We definitely support the idea of getting training. But the fact is once again, it's a fundamental right. And there's an assumption that because an individual purchases a firearm that they don't know how to use it. No, the assumption is that they have a right to own it, to possess it, and to utilize it if necessary to defend themselves. And, we would be wise for you to go out and get training, but there's a big difference between recommending training and encouraging training and providing training than mandating training. Because here's what happens. Whenever you mandate training, it becomes the ceiling, not the floor. Whatever they say you have to have, most people will just go out and they'll only get the bare minimum. If they said you need an 8-hour course to get a gun, people will go out, they'll take their 8-hour course, and they'll assume that I am now prepared and ready to defend and take care of myself. The fact is, that may or may not, that is not the case, right? You need to get training, but that doesn't necessarily, or you should get training, but that doesn't mean that it's something that should be mandated, because as we know, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Florida has no training. Excuse me, Craig. We have a very weak training requirement, and I hate it. There's no time requirement for it, and in fact, the only actual requirement in it is you must pull the trigger on one live round, which means you can get a course, and they have them at the gun shows all the time. 45 minutes. Go out back, grab the gun, shoot a bullet through a suppressor into a bucket of sand behind the facility, and that counts. And that's where people stop because, like you've said, that's become the ceiling for training. We've seen it time and time and time and time again. When a state gets rid of the training requirement, all the classes go crazy. 8-hour, 16-hour, 40-hour classes because now people want to get and seek that training. But you know what? We do that for everything, Craig, because we're educated adults. If I went and bought a new car and didn't know how to drive a stick shift, you'd get training on it. If I bought a chainsaw, I'd at least watch a couple YouTube videos before you go out there and cut your leg off, because that's what responsible people do.
Right. Nope. You hit the nail right on the head, sir.
Yeah, you
hit the nail right on the head.
You can't, mandate responsibility through these crazy ordinances and statutes trying to do the training, and that's what happens. So anyway, this is not your guy. This is not your guy.
I think this is the knockout blow. This video right here should be the knockout blow. He's done. He's done.
Yeah. Yep. Moving right along from him is what Sleepy Joe should say. Hey, Craig, the next subject here, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. We got off on a tangent, and then boom, it popped up in a big story today. So we're going to tackle this one today. Senator Rand Paul said that he wants to ask the Department of Justice to do a criminal referral over Dr. Fauci's testimony. This is wonderful. This is a great thing. This is a great thing to see with Rand Paul. We saw them go back and forth, and you and I have seen here, Craig, and we've talked about this many times, where Dr. Fakey has changed his story, and now he's become even more adamant, and he's calling Senator Paul the liar. We've seen Dr. Fauci get up there and say it, and we've also heard him say outside of testimony being given to the Senate or the House that he had to say things that were not true because he needed you to wear your mask and not panic. It was the best for you, so we told you to do this, even though it's really not what you needed to do.
Yeah, well, in this particular case, and this is what was so odd, he actually, Senator Paul actually read to Dr. Fauci, this is what you and your colleagues over at the NIH called gain of function. This is what they did in the study that you funded. And the two were almost identical. And Fauci still had the nerve to say, no, that's not gain of function. You are a liar. I'm like, those are your own words. So it's not Rand Paul who's the liar. It's Dr. Fakey who's the liar. And that's the reason for the criminal referral, because it is a crime to lie to Congress.
Yeah, listen, if you can go after Roger Clemens for 6 counts of lying to Congress, why can't you go after this ass clown? This guy, he clearly has been up there telling, I was going to say untruths, like I'm a politician. He's clearly telling lies,
Right.
clearly changing the story,
Right.
clearly changing the narrative. It's a horrible, to see this happen. And Craig, half of us sit back and we see this guy and we're like, why is this guy still on TV? Why are we
still listening? Why are we still listening to
Has
this
he
guy?
not been discredited enough?
Right. One would think, but the problem is that would kind of like with Dave Chipman, right? If they admit that he was wrong, that he's the wrong guy, that he actually lied, well, then that would mean that so much of what they're doing and what they're saying is built upon a lie. If they give up on David Chipman, then that would be admitting that so much of the stuff that he spouts, they believe as fact, as doctrine. So if they give up on Mr. Chipman, that means they give up on, well, the things that they believe. And so I just have a feeling that's the reason why it's so hard for them to give up on him.
And I don't think they will. I think they know they can let him sit there in limbo, and as soon as there's a shooting, and there will be a shooting somewhere across the nation, because you can't legislate evil out of people. You can't pass a law that says you can't be evil. That at some point that's going to occur, and then they're going to get it. They're going to get the nomination, because we'll have a couple of sway votes.
And to parallel that with Dr. Fauci, eventually he's going to say something that turns out to be correct, and then they're going to say, "See, look how smart Dr. Fakey is." Well,
Yeah.
guess what? A broken clock is right twice a day.
That's right. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Sun shines on a dog's ass some days.
Yeah, we can keep going with those, but we should stop probably right now. Hey, let's get to one of our favorite topics: women's sports. It seems to be we've been hitting this the last couple of 2-3 weeks here, Craig. But it seems like women in sports seem to go either one side or the other here when it comes to being responsible adults and leaders. We've had some Olympic athletes in the previous couple of weeks decide they wanted to disrespect the flag and disrespect the United States. Then we had the beach handball team over in Europe. They got into a fight for equality for uniforms over there, and now we're back to all these lovely women on the U.S. soccer team. They decided that they were going to, against IOC's rules. But by the way, the Olympic Committee has not done anything against them yet. Against the U.S. Olympic Committee's rules, they've done nothing against them yet. This team goes out there before taking the field against Sweden, and the majority of them kneel down during the national anthem. Now, these three in the center are wearing the Black Lives Matter, Craig, but you know what? They're not disrespecting the flag. They found a way to make to make their statement known. I don't agree with that statement, but they're not disrespecting the United States of America and listen, the Olympics as a whole. When you start playing the nonsense that these people that are kneeling down are doing, it's crap, and they should be thrown off the team, Craig. They should be go back home and play for your local sports clubs.
I completely agree. You know, it's funny. You look at that and you're like, I'm thinking to myself, now imagine if they were wearing something that said, abortion is murder. You know, how would the pro-abortion or the pro-choice crowd feel if you had people representing the country, who had that on there? It's just first of all, this is not the place to make political statements. But if you're going to make political statements, at the very least, what you don't do is you don't disrespect our national anthem and our flag. If you don't want to represent this country, if you hate this country so much, then you don't need to represent us. Period. I don't want you there. I, as a taxpayer, don't want you there. And I think there are a lot of people out there who would tend to agree with me. Now, Mike, this leads us into our parting shot, because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize was in that game, they actually went on to lose 3-0. Well, now we figured out the reason why. That's because they've decided they're going to boycott making any goals until racism is defeated in the United States.
Makes as much sense as their current stance of kneeling down during the flag, right? Might as well. These can't emphasize it enough. You want to kneel down during the flag, but then you're going to wear a jersey that has the Olympic and the U.S. flag on it. You lost me. I don't even think you understand what you're trying to do. What's her name? And the leader of all this nonsense is that the one with the purple hair, the Rapinoe girl.
Right.
And she's listen, depending on the day of the week is what cause she's fighting for. Also, it's first it was for equal pay, then it's for BLM, then it's for LGBT rights. She should just run for office, because she's definitely not running on the soccer field and scoring any goals.
Well, no, Mike, you're 100% correct. And then, for people to understand just how big a deal it was for them to lose 3-0.
Oh yeah.
When they got scored on and were behind, it was like it was a shocker to the soccer world, and everyone was still like, okay, well, they're going to come back. This is USA Soccer. And then they got scored on again and then again. Folks, this is like the Washington Generals beating the Harlem Globetrotters. That's what this is. It just doesn't happen.
Them kneeling down on the flag and embarrassing not only the United States, but the Olympics as well. Okay?
Right.
Remember, the IOC has said this type of activity is banned. Probably motivated Sweden even more to say, let's get rid of them. They're embarrassing our sport. Because we're the ones that have to stand out here with them. Let's get rid of them. And Sweden went to town on them.
Exactly, and you know what? At this point, I'm hoping that they get eliminated, and because I don't want them on the podium representing us. Not
Oh,
if they're
no.
going to kneel during. Not if they're going to kneel when they're getting their
Yeah.
gold medals or silver medals or
Yep.
bronze.
No,
Or,
they're done. They're
you
done.
know,
It's a double
tin.
elimination tournament. One tie or one loss, they're done. And they've got
Right.
like 8 more games to go. They're done.
Right. Well, yeah. So anyway, once again, if you don't want to represent the country, that's fine. Don't. Let someone who actually wants to represent the United States represent the United States, because you're not representative of who we are as a nation. If you're embarrassed of us, we're 10 times more embarrassed of you.
Here's the big problem with this, Craig, is let's look at this photo, and I know this is the joke photo. You've got the team there behind, right? Look
Right.
what they're influencing in front of them.
Right.
Okay.
Little kids sitting there in front of them.
This is the problem, that we're letting them feed the children this lie to crap. They should be able to go out there and go, listen, I'm a sports figure. I'm here to win the team and make you proud and show you that anybody can be anything they want to be.
Right.
And that's not what they're showing these young women right there in front of them that are there to watch them play soccer.
Yeah. Well, and once again, they're promoting a big lie.
Yep.
I'm not saying the racism doesn't exist, but what I am saying is that on the scale of where we were and where we are and where we're headed in the right direction. We're heading in the right direction fast.
Yeah.
We've made leaps and bounds especially to the point where now we are equal under the law. I don't know. It kills me to see people just act like we have not come. They act like we haven't come any further since we freed the slaves. Like, free the slaves, that's it.
And again, listen, is there racism out there? Of course there is. There's racism everywhere. You're always going to have a pocket of the 1 or 2% here and there. But those pockets are much bigger now, thanks to the Obama administration, than they were just 12, 13 years ago. So.
Oh yeah. Well, when you
Years
start
being
doing
driven
this
backwards.
equity thing, where you start saying we're going to give people more stuff than others, we're going to start, because see, equity is not about equality, folks.
Right.
All right, it's not about making sure we're equal. It's about saying I'm going to give some people more stuff because they need more stuff.
Which says to me, I'm going to buy more votes from minorities.
Pretty much that's exactly what it is. But anyway, that was our parting shot. Supposed to be light, and I'm so mad at women's soccer right now. But Mikey, tomorrow's Freedback Friday. Talk to the folks. Let them know what we got coming up for Freedback Friday.
Gorilla Machining, our good friends at GorillaMachining.com, GorillaMachining.com. We have a 9mm barrel, short 9mm barrel. I think it's 7.5 inches. It might be a 10.5-inch barrel. I got to double check. With a flash hider for you for when you build out your short barrel rifle or your AR pistol for your 9mm shooting enjoyment.
Excellent. Well, folks, hey, that's going to be it for today's episode of The Rundown. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and subscribing and telling your friends to do the same. We will see you tomorrow on Freedback Friday.
Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow on Freedback Friday.